Hey, this is James here with the Oracle Outlook for the week starting March the 18th, 2019. Thank you for tuning in and joining me for this week's Oracle Outlook video reading. I am so glad to have you here. This week I'm going to get right into the reading, and this is why. I literally just got off a Skype call with one of my cartomancy coaching students. She's in Israel, and so one of the things I love about Skype is that I can be right here in my corner of the world, here in the United States, and talk to somebody else on the other side of the world. It is an amazing thing. I just love it. So, like I said, I was talking to this cartomancy coaching student, and she is working with Lenormand. So Lenormand is actually on the table right now as we speak, so I thought it's a matter of convenience. Why not just stick with what I've been working with this morning so far? So in particular, the deck that I'm working with is my favorite Lenormand deck, and that is, if you're no stranger, you already know, it is Fanu's Lilac Dondorf. Like I said, if you're no stranger, you know that I love this deck. I talk about it all the time. Actually, I rave about it all the time. But if you're new and you're curious, I will be leaving a link to information about the deck in the description box below so you can check it out, learn more about it, or if you're like me and you're an avid deck collector, you can find ways to add it to your collection. So again, we're working with Fanu's Lilac Dondorf, and now that I've set things up, let's now move to the table and take a closer look at the cards that are going to be making up this week's video reading. And here we are with the cards on the table. I'm going to take a few moments to shuffle the deck. And as I shuffle, I'm focusing on my usual intention for these weekly general readings. And that is, I'm asking for the information, for the guidance, for the advice that's going to be most helpful and beneficial as we move through the upcoming week. Feeling one more time will be good. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut the deck. And fan the cards out. And I'm looking for 5 cards in the fan that are getting my attention. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and now I'm looking for the final card. I'll go with this one as 5. Alright, so those are the 5 cards, so now I'm taking the remainder of the deck up. I'm putting that to one side. And now I'm going to take a moment to line the cards up. Alright, so now we have the 5 cards lined up. And what I usually do when I do a line of 5, I usually start with the middle card. For me, the middle card represents a central issue or something that we're being asked to focus on for the week ahead. And here we have Fox. Okay, so for some people, Fox for me is a job and employment card. So there may be some focus and concentration on either somebody who's on the job hunt, because that's what's coming to me in the moment, because a fox is a hunting creature and it does what it needs to do to survive. So there may be somebody who is on the job hunt, so they're looking for work, they're looking for employment. So there is that. There is another segment that fox could mean around self-employment. So there may be people who are focusing on self-employment, and if that's the case, then fox is asking you to consider what it is that your skill is, because this card for me can represent skill and one's craft. So if you're self-employed, then there may be a need to focus on what you consider to be your skill and your craft, and how can you work on maybe coming up with a plan or strategy, that's another word for Fox, regarding your self-employment venture, right? So Fox for me in that case can represent self-employment, skill, craft, and strategy or planning. Now going back to the person who may be on the job hunt in terms of employment, then this is about focusing on what you consider to be your skills or your skill set. So skill would mean your skill set in relation to job or employment. Another aspect of this card could be asking us to consider the people around us. So it would be very interesting to see what the surrounding cards are, because Fox in that case can represent being manipulated or being taken advantage of. So it could just be a matter of, again, needing to keep an eye on who we are interacting with this week, or who's coming into our space, and being clear on what their motives and motivations are, because again, this card can represent being manipulated and being taken advantage of. Another aspect of this card can represent something that is wrong or something that is bad. So it could just represent that there may be a focus on some kind of mistake, something that is wrong, and the surrounding cards might tell us more about that or what we might need to do to correct it. So again, very generally speaking, Fox can represent job and employment, so there may be a focus on that. Self-employment, so there may be a focus on that with the idea about one's skill and one's craft. This card can also be about planning, because I talked about a plan or a strategy, so if it's not in part connected to the people who may be self-employed, then this could just be about, a planning something, or having a strategy, or being clever about something, being crafty in the positive sense. In the challenging sense, this could be focusing on people who may not have our best interest at heart, going with the idea that this can represent manipulation and being taken advantage of. And then finally, and this may be more of a generalization, but taking a look at maybe something that is wrong, and what do we need to do to correct that error. So that is Fox. So now we'll take a look at the surrounding cards to see what more it wants to offer about the center card, starting with the card on the far left. And here we have, opening the line up, here we have stars. Okay, so if I go with the idea of either someone on the job hunt, someone seeking employment, or someone who's self-employed, stars opening the lineup is all about guidance and direction, but it's also about having a goal. So this might be a job-related goal or a self-employment goal, so or seeking some direction regarding that, if I pair stars and Fox, right? Stars for me is an atmosphere card. So if we are talking about maybe something being wrong or something being bad, stars being an atmosphere represents wanting to clear the air, right? So there is that aspect of it too. So again, stars for me can represent guidance, it can represent direction, it can also represent what inspires us. So if we are talking about job and employment, what inspires you? If you are on the job hunt, what is it that inspires you? What is it that you would like to do in terms of a job? If you have to be an employee, right? And if you're self-employed, also come back to this. What inspires you? What are your aspirations when it comes to being self-employed? Right? And if you're not sure, if you're thinking that maybe the job that you're in is the wrong job, or that the self-employment venture is the wrong place for you to be in, then this card could be saying too, like, what guidance or direction could you get that would be helpful with that? Now, one aspect that might be helpful with stars is that you might want to consider talking to, this card is known as a guru card. So it could just be saying too, like, if there is somebody who does maybe career coaching, something of that nature, somebody who actually does work in that, then you might want to consider that, because I look at this as a coach or a guru, right? So there is one aspect of that, especially if you're on the job hunt or wanting to make a career change. then this card is offering that as advice. If you are on the job hunt, this is coming to me in the moment, this card can represent a network. So it could just be a matter of spreading the word and letting as many people you know as possible that you are looking for work, that you are on the job hunt. Because again, this card represents having a network, right? Now for the person who's self-employed, this card can represent doing something online or doing something with the internet. So it could just be saying too, like one of the ways that maybe you could work on your skill or your craft may be through online, doing something online. And that could be working with a guru online. Now this is personal to me, so since I'm seeing some aspect of it that's personal to me, I will share it because there may be other people watching who may fall into the same category. For me, Fox is a self-employment card because I am self-employed. When stars is connected to that, this is a card for me in the deck that can represent divination. So this could represent somebody who is skilled in divination in particular, or some other form of metaphysical sciences. So this could be astrology, this could be numerology, divination, any kind of metaphysical practice. Then you may be thinking about wanting to work with whatever your skill is in that industry, in that area, and you're wanting to maybe perfect your craft more. Or if you are thinking about how you can take your practice, I'm looking at the image on the card, and this is not necessarily a Lenormand thing, but I'm looking at the fox being out in nature. So if you're maybe wanting to go beyond your local environment, your natural environment, and you're wanting to do something online, this card may be encouraging you to do that, but also about seeking the guidance that would be most helpful, because this card, again, can represent the internet or anything having to do with electronics or technology. So that is stars. So now let's look at the card in between stars and fox. And here we have birds. Okay. So birds is a card for me that can represent communication. So this idea where I talked about maybe for the person who may be seeking some guidance or direction revolving their job or employment, then in this card in between stars, remember I talked about maybe a career coach or a job coach, then this could be a discussion with someone else, because this card represents communication and conversation. That's its chief meaning for me. So it could just be a matter of talking to a coach regarding job and employment, if I was to read the cards, you know, from left to right at this point. Right? It could also be that we may need to have a conversation or a discussion about direction, about inspiration, you know, regarding job and employment. There needs to be a conversation, or that there's going to be a focus on speaking. Birds is about the spoken word. So someone may want to be maybe speaking about divination or some other type of metaphysical topic, and it's in connection with their self-employment, maybe as a way to gain more visibility for what it is that they do. But I'm seeing this as speaking, right? Now, for some people, if someone is on the job hunt, birds can talk about frustration. I look at this as a frustration card. So here we have, if we read birds and fox, we have frustration with job, frustration with employment. You know, other emotions that are wrapped up in birds besides frustration could be being nervous about the job hunt, being anxious about the job hunt, right? Now, this pairing here, stars and birds, could represent, again, this idea about talking to one's network. It makes me feel like we're spreading the word, right? So if someone is looking for a job, the cards may be encouraging you right now that to spread the word regarding job and employment, regarding being on the job hunt. Right? Now, I will say this. Remember, I talked about this idea of, being taken advantage of, being manipulated with Fox in the middle. One of the ways that we could be manipulated, possibly if we're not careful, is through some kind of online or internet scam. Right? Because stars and Fox for me would represent, something online that is wrong, that is bad, that may be fraudulent. Or another possibility here is be mindful of receiving phone calls that may be connected to that, because this card, birds in the middle, can represent phone calls. So it's making me feel like there may be some sort of maybe online scam, but it has some sort of connection to the spoken word. So I'm looking at this and it make me feel like these two make me feel like maybe a robocall, some kind of thing. So that's just another possibility. Now, it could be for some people, one of the skills that they need to work on, remember I talked about this is about skill, one of the skills they need to work on is their communication skills. And that would make sense. If I go back to stars for a moment, I'm reminded right now that I do believe Mercury is in retrograde, right? So if I consider this to be astrology, the stars, what's going on with that, then it could just be a matter of we may need to be careful, mindful, right, of the words that we use when talking to other people this week, because this could be communication that's wrong, communication that's bad, communication that is a mistake, or words that are wrong, right? So it's a matter of maybe being very mindful of the words that we speak in relation to Mercury being in retrograde. So I'm seeing those as possibilities here. So now let's take a look with the cards on the other side of the line this week. So taking a look on the other side of Fox, we have Moon. Okay, so now if I wasn't sure about the whole job thing before, I am now, because Moon is a card that can represent career, right? So we have job and career here this week. So there's something about one's job. And if you are on the job hunt, it may be a matter of you still looking into something that you were doing in terms of an overall career. So maybe sticking with the same industry, something of that nature, right? And there is something else about one's career. So if you are self-employed and you're working on your skill and your craft, then this could just be a point of gaining some visibility, because this card can represent recognition. So if you are self-employed, the Moon would be asking you, what is it that you want to be known for? Right? What do you want to be recognized for? What do you want to be known in your industry for doing? Now, again, I'm coming back to the job and employment hunt in particular, but this could also fit for someone who's self-employed. If we're talking about Fox representing job, employment, self-employment, then next to Moon, this is about doing work, whether it's a job or self-employment, doing work in which you feel a great sense of emotional satisfaction. So I'm seeing that. Now, for some people, if Fox is talking about job and employment, and you may be considering what you need to do to get by, because Fox can represent survival, doing what we need to do to survive, then Moon could be suggesting moonlighting, where we are working more than one job, because this card can represent little jobs. So it could be part-time jobs, side hustles, things of that nature, right? So it could be somebody is either looking for more than one job, moonlighting, right, with the Moon, or that somebody is working as an employee by day, and then maybe by night they're doing their own thing, right? Now another thing could be like somebody is, actually doing a night job, because this would be job at night. So again, a couple of possibilities here. Again, it says somebody is on the job hunt and they may need to be considering doing work at night, or that somebody is self-employed and they're looking for creating ways of gaining some recognition or visibility, and that would make sense because now we have moon and stars. Remember, said the same thing similar with stars, right? So now we have it with stars and moon, but moon is about recognition and reputation. You know, what do you want to be known for? What do you have a reputation for doing, right? If we talk about skill, what are you known for doing? What do you have a reputation for, right? And then somebody may be seeking a greater sense of emotional satisfaction. Right, so that's what I'm seeing with moon. So again, moon is about career, it's about reputation, it's about recognition. Right? Now, the other thing that I want to point out, if we go with the idea where I was talking about this idea with Mercury being in retrograde and communication possibly being wrong or bad, then moon coming after that, if you resonate with that scenario, then this is about recognition of that. Recognizing when a mistake has been made so we can clear the air, so we can make it right. So that's another possibility to consider. Right? Okay, so now moving on to the last card, rounding the line out, we have okay. So now here at the end of the line we have Crossroads. Crossroads represents choices, decisions, options. So it makes me feel, because this card can also represent multiples, what I talked about, this idea about people working more than one job, or they're having a day job and doing something at night, moonlighting. It's being reinforced here because this card always represents multiples. So then here we have with Fox and Crossroads, we have multiple jobs, right? If we have the idea that a person is on the job hunt and seeking employment opportunities, then this card at the end of the line could represent coming up to a place or a point in time where you have to make a decision. It would be, because again, this card is about choices and decisions. It would suggest that you have more than one option, because this card represents options, alternatives, things like that. Now, for some people, if I mirror the cards, we have stars. Remember, I said this is about guidance and direction, right? Inspiration, aspiration. But if I go with the idea about guidance and direction, then mirroring stars to Crossroads, we have guidance and direction about one's path in life, because this can be literal. This can represent a literal path, right? So that somebody may be seeking some guidance and direction about their path. And the focus here would be maybe around, again, job and employment. Because it could also be in the much larger spiritual sense. Remember, I talked about this could be about the metaphysical. This could represent the universe, the metaphysical, things like that. Then it could just be maybe in the larger sense, somebody questioning their path in life. And they're doing that because they want to make sure that they're not going the wrong way. Right, so I'm seeing that as a possibility as well. So again, for the person who may be on the job hunt, you know, looking for employment, it's very important for you to recognize, Moon, that you may have options and choices. If I read this as employee, recognition, choices, options, alternatives, right? Or it could just be a matter if you maybe haven't found something yet, you may need to recognize that you're going to have to make maybe some different choices or decisions about the path, about the way you've been approaching it, because this card can represent approach. Now again, if it's more of a general thing, if I go back to the focus with Fox being about maybe something being wrong or something being bad, some kind of error or mistake, and we recognize that, and part of the recognition might be taking a look at how we are approaching the situation. we might need to consider changing our approach. I'm a big believer as a life coach myself that if we're going about something and it's not producing the result we want, chances are we need to change the way we've been approaching it to get a different result. And so that will be my closing thought, and I will leave that with you. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and end this week's Oracle Outlook. I'm James Himm Mitchell, and as I wrap up, I'd like to thank you for sharing space here with me for this week's reading, and I look forward to sharing the same space with you again in our next video reading together. So until then, I'm hoping that you have a wonderful day, and I'm hoping that you have a wonderful week. Take care.